Solving a one-step equation. To solve a one-step equation, we always want to do the opposite. For example, if we are subtracting, the opposite of subtracting is going to be adding, or the other way around. If we're adding a number, the opposite of adding is going to be subtracting. And that's why I label this. So in this case, look what happens here. We are subtracting 1. What is the opposite? The opposite of subtracting is going to be adding. So in other words, because I want to get rid of this -1 and I want to have a by itself, all what I have to do is make it 0 by doing the opposite. The opposite of subtracting is going to be adding 1. So I'll do the same thing the other side, adding 1. Now adding positive and -1, that's how it's going to be 0. And we're going to end up with a equals. On the other side, can you see that they have different sign? Whenever you have different sign, you're going to subtract and you're going to keep the sign of the biggest number. The biggest number is negative. That means that the answer should be -4. Okay, so the answer A equals to -4. Remember, we always gonna do the opposite. Okay, now for this one, can you see that we're subtracting 4 to the variable x? What I want to have is x to be by itself, so I have to get rid of this 4 because we're subtracting 4. The opposite of subtracting is going to be adding. I need to make it 0, so in that way I can cancel it. So do the opposite, adding 4, and that means that I'm going to be adding also 4 on the other side of the equal sign. Now adding positive and -4, that is going to be 0. That's how we're going to end up with x equals. Can you see that they have the same sign? If you don't see a number, a sign next to number 3, the sign is going to be positive. That means that it's positive 3 plus 4. The answer should be positive 7. So if they have the same sign, add it up and keep the sign. Now, for the next one, you see how we're adding 4 to the variable k? Well, the opposite of adding is going to be subtracting. That's why I have subtract. Okay, so now I want to isolate the variable k to get rid of this 4 because we're adding 4. I'm going to do the opposite. The opposite of adding is going to be subtracting 4, and I'm going to do the same thing the other side, subtracting 4. Now adding positive and -4, they will cancel each other out, so it's going to turn into 0, and that's how you end up only with k equals. On the other side, can you see that they have the same sign? Add it up and keep the sign. So that is going to give you -7. So the answer k equals -7. That's the answer. Now k is by itself and we know its value. Now for the next one, okay? So we're adding 2. The opposite of adding is going to be subtracting, okay? So subtracting 2 to make it 0, okay? So I'm doing the opposite, subtracting 2, subtracting 2. Adding positive and -2, that is going to be 0. And that's how we get y equals. Can you see that they have the same sign? Whenever they have the same sign, you're going to add it up and you're going to keep the sign. So the answer should be y equals -8. Okay. Now, solving using a one-step equation, this line means that we're dividing. So x is going to be divided by -3. Now, the opposite of divide is going to be multiplying. The opposite of multiplying is going to be dividing. Okay. Now, because we're dividing by -3, I'm gonna do the opposite, which is multiply. Okay, so that's what this line means. It means that you are dividing. Now, I wanna isolate x. That means I have to get rid of this -3 by doing the opposite, because we're dividing by -3. To get the answer, I'm gonna be multiplying by -3. Okay, parentheses means multiplying, okay? So whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you do it to the other side, multiplying by -3. Now here, when you divide, we can divide -3 by -3. Well, divide the two signs first. Whenever you divide or multiply, look at this. Whenever you divide or multiply, you're gonna be using this triangle. When you divide two numbers that are negative, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cover the two signs that I'm dividing, and that tells you that the answer should be positive. And now divide, after you divide the two signs, then divide the two numbers. 3 divided by 3, you're gonna get 1, and it's gonna be +1 times x. That's how you're gonna get x equals. On the other side, okay, then you're multiplying, okay, two numbers that are negative. So multiply the two signs. Negative divided, I mean multiply by a negative, negative times a negative, it tells you that the answer should be positive. After you multiply the two signs, then multiply the two numbers. 4 times 3, the answer should be +12. So that's how we get the answer for that one. Okay. And one more time. Next, -2 is dividing x. That's what this line means. The opposite of dividing is going to be multiplying. So I'm going to multiply then this by -2. So do the same thing on the other side, multiply by -2. Now, can you see that we can divide the two signs first? Negative divided by a negative. Okay, you're gonna keep using this triangle whenever you divide or you multiply, and you divide or multiply the signs. In this case, negative divided by a negative. If I cover this, it tells me that the answer should be positive. Then 2 divided by 2, you're gonna get 1. 1 times x, you're gonna get x. On the other side, we're gonna do exactly the same thing, but now instead of dividing, we're gonna be multiplying. And you multiply the two signs that you have in this multiplication. 3 is positive times a negative. So we cover this, okay? It tells you that the answer should be negative. After you multiply the two signs, then multiply the two numbers. 3 times 2, the answer should be 6. Then that means that x equals -6. But remember, you multiplied the two signs and then the two numbers. And the same thing happened on the other side. You divide two signs and then divide the two numbers, but you got to do both. Okay. Now let's do the next one. So 2 now is multiplying x. Whenever a number is next to the variable, it means that you have multiplication. So here 2 is multiplying x. The opposite of multiplying is going to be dividing. So in other words, to get rid of this 2, I have to divide by 2 to make it 1. Okay. Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you do it to the other side. So you're going to be dividing by 2. Now, because both numbers are positive, because this number is positive, I don't have to worry about the sign. So 2 divided by 2 is going to be 1. 1 times x. That's how you're going to get x equals. But on the other side, I'm dividing a negative by a positive. Well, a negative by a positive, all what you do is you're going to cover the two signs that you have in that division. Can you see that the answer is going to be negative? After I know the answer is going to be negative, then divide the two numbers, 10 divided by 2. That tells you that the answer should be negative 5. Okay, so we always going to be doing the opposite, but just be careful with the sign. Okay, you got to do both. Now, on the next one, okay, negative 5 is multiplying y. The opposite of multiplying is going to be dividing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this line. So in that way, that means that I'm dividing by negative 5. Divide by negative 5. Now, what you're going to do is you have to divide the two signs and then the two numbers. Negative divided by a negative. Well, whenever you divide, you're going to cover the two signs that you have in that division, and the answer is going to be positive. Then divide the two numbers. 5 divided by 5 is going to be 1. 1 times y, you're going to get y equals. On the other side, we are dividing a positive by a negative. Cover the two signs that you have in that division. That tells you that the answer should be negative. And 25 divided by 5, the answer should be negative 5. That's the answer.